Hello everybody and welcome back to Panda Creates Tutorials. I'm Panda and today I am very excited to be sharing this with you. First of all, I'm going to start by giving credit where credit's due. My friend from America, Meg Epps, I originally saw this idea when she did a cake skin on some coasters and I fell in love with the idea. And I decided that I was going to look into seeing if I can do it on a tumbler, and I found Christy's Custom Tumblers on YouTube, and she did the same crocodile pattern that Meg had used, but she did it on a tumbler. So I got really excited. I went looking for my cake skin, and now a few weeks later, it's been about 2 months now, ta-da! We're here. We're going to make a cake skin tumbler that looks like crocodile skin. Now, the three main ingredients that you will need on top of, in this tutorial, I am using a 20-ounce straight skinny tumbler. I am also using Australian Export spray paint in the matte black, and I am using a Officeworks, I think it's Studymate from memory, spray adhesive. And the epoxy that I'll be using is Diamond Cote from Just Resin. So on top of everything that you'd normally need for tumblers, you will need what they call a cake skin or a cake wrap or a cake mat that has some kind of repetitive seamless pattern on it. I use a old fluffy blush brush, try saying that 10 times fast, a blush brush to apply my mica powders, and for this tutorial today I am using the gorgeous Bonnie and Clyde from Kiss My Art by Anna. So as I said, I am using a 20-ounce skinny for this tutorial. This is one of the ones with the screw-in lid, not the sit-in one, just because I'm finding that they're becoming more popular with people that have them in their cars, especially because they don't leak out the sides. But I'm using a 20-ounce skinny. You can use whatever tumbler that you want, but I do whatever size you want, sorry, but I do highly recommend that you stick with the straight skinny, just because it's easier to wrap the cake mat around a skinny than any other shape, especially when you start getting into like wine tumblers and stuff with that curve. I wouldn't recommend it, so try and keep with a straight skinny. And then I'll show you this cake mat. I will link where I got this cake mat down in the description, but I wanted to do the alligator skin, so I actually bought this from a proper cake decorator online, and then I cut, if you can see the dodgy line that is here, I cut my mat in half, so as big as this is, and you'll see like it covers a 20-ounce skinny, it wraps 1.5 times around, and that's just using half the mat. So you will, depending on the size mat that you buy, you can get 2 mats to do 2 cups at the same time, but you will need some kind of seamless pattern on your silicone mat. Okay, and then your blush brush and your chameleon powder as well. I will link everything that I am using down in the description. I will also mention it as I'm using it, but I'm going to go and sand. I prep my cup by sanding my cup. I then give it a really good wash with dishwashing liquid and water, dry it down, and then I spray paint. So I'm going to go and do all of that off screen, and then I will be back. Alright guys, so we are going to start off after we've prepped our cup and base sprayed it black, as you can see. I used Australian Export in the matte black on this one because it's my favourite black base. You can use gloss if you'd like to, but I just prefer to use the matte for my bases. And you will have it spinning on your turner. Now, as I am quickly mixing up my resin, I am using Diamond Cote from Just Resin. It is a 1:1 ratio food safe resin. Just while I finish mixing this up, I'm going to quickly slot in my resin safety disclaimer.
Hi guys, a quick safety disclaimer for when working with resin. Please make sure you always protect yourself by wearing eye goggles or other protective eyewear. a half-face respirator mask with interchangeable filters. I got mine from Bunnings, and they also sell the replacement filters. And of course, gloves. Now, I prefer to work with nitrile gloves, but in a pinch, vinyl gloves will also work. These are the two types that will not tear easily when working with resin. Please make sure you stay safe while you're having fun, and happy creating.
Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, and I just realized I need to refilm that because I don't do Twitch anymore. I am far too busy to do Twitch, so I need to change the banners on that little video. But we are just about done mixing the resin. Now, you can use the tutorial that I saw from Christy's Custom Tumblers. She did use quickset epoxy. I'm pretty sure when I saw Meg Epps from Lindley Grove do hers as well, she also used the quickset. Now, obviously, being down in Australia, we are very limited in regards to our supplies sometimes. I think Audax is getting a quickset in. I'm not sure if anybody actually has access to it at the moment though. So I'm just using my normal epoxy. Obviously, that means that I'm going to have to wait until tomorrow for the big reveal, but you can use quickset, you can use normal epoxy. I just thought I would mention that, but I am done mixing up my resin now. I have mixed up, this is a 20 ounce straight skinny, and I have mixed up 20 ounces, my goodness, 20 mils of epoxy, which is 10 mils of part A and 10 mils of part B, and we are going to be putting the epoxy straight onto the black base with nothing in between. So 20 mils should do a 20 ounce cup. I mean, because we don't have any glitter or anything making it super thirsty, I just put powder on my cup. More powder. Okay. Maybe wipe off the powder of the glove first. Okay, here we go. So 20 mils should be more than enough, but you do want a nice thick coat so that when you go to put the cake mat on, it's got something to sink into to create that texture. Okay, so we'll put this on. Now, obviously the bottom isn't going to be textured, but I'm still going to epoxy the bottom as well anyway. Just so that first layer is all even all over the cup. Add what's left. Going to say there is a spot coming around at the top that doesn't have any epoxy on it. Now as it comes around, I'm just going to push, because all the epoxy's sort of sitting on one side at the moment. I'm just going to push it around, and then we'll hit it with some heat. Getting to that time of year where our resin, well, down in Australia anyway, our resin gets a nice warm bath before we use it. And I just want to mention as well, if you are new to tumbler making and you have not yet made tumblers in the cooler months, sometimes your part A can get a little bit crystallized. If that happens and you start to see like hard little crystal bits through your part A especially, please don't panic. It just means that it is so cold in your workspace that your resin has started to separate. If you sit it not too closely, but within like maybe half a meter or so in front of a little fan heater, or sit it in a warm, not hot, warm container of water just to warm it up, and then give it a good mix, you're going to find that it all goes back together again, so please don't panic. I am now going to hit this with a little bit of heat just because I can see a few little bubbles here and there. Okay, now what? And I don't have a glove on my finger, please don't judge me. I took my glove off. Okay. So for this part, it looks like we're actually sliding off. Hang on. There we go. Fix that up there. Okay, so what you want to do is, and I'm just going to turn my turner off for this bit so I've got a little bit more control. This cake mat that you saw at the beginning, right, I have cut it in half so that I had the right size, but I'm going to squish that down into that. Maybe move that out of the way. No, wrong way. No, wrong way. Oh, don't you love it when the toners don't behave? There we go. Okay, so turning my toner back on. I'm going to squish the cake mat down onto the cup as it spins. Oh, we've picked up our baking paper. That's okay. Squish, squish, squish. Until we come around the other side like that. Okay. So squishing it all down, making sure that it's nice and tight. I can actually feel that coming off again. So make sure that that stays. Okay, now scrunchies. I'm using scrunchies. You can use elastic bands. What I'm going to do is get this to turn. Why are you? Oh, I see. You're coming out of here. We don't want that. Okay. Now it won't flop down on me. So use scrunchies, use elastic bands, use whatever you can that's going to hold down your mat to your cup. Okay, because we want to keep it nice and tight. This one can come back down this way. We want to make sure that the mat stays firm, right? Because as that epoxy is curing, it's going to set in that crocodile skin pattern. Does that make sense? I know I'm slightly out of frame. I actually had a lady come at me for my resin charm pen tutorial because when I was drilling the hole I was out of frame. Guys, I'm really sorry about that. I didn't actually realize that until it was uploaded, but you do see me pointing to where you have to drill the hole at the beginning and then you see where the hole is afterwards. So I honestly didn't think it was a huge deal, but if you guys were not too impressed either, hopefully in a much nicer way than this lady decided to PM me on my Facebook, just let me know and I can refilm that one. Like as you saw, it's like a 15-minute video. So if it is a huge bother, I can redo that, but if you guys survive just fine, let me know in the comments and I'll leave it be. But that is, I'm going to turn that and let it spin now so that it doesn't all pool in one place. But that is step one. So just to recap really quickly, because I do work quite fast for this section. Make sure you have prepped your cup correctly, given it a good wash, and then once that is done, you spray paint it. This is still, can you see that? I have to keep an eye on that. The PVC pipe connection that goes into like the twisty bit is coming loose, so I'm just going to have to keep an eye on that, I think. But yeah, once you've spray painted your tumbler black, make sure it's completely dry, chuck it on the turner, have your cake mat ready. As I mentioned, I've cut this one in half because it was massive, but get your epoxy on there and then start to wrap. I do find it easier to stop my cup from spinning, start laying it down. Once I've got it in the position that I want it, I turn the turner back on and I feed it around that way. Once it's all on, make sure you squish it down really, really well because we want the epoxy to come come up into the pattern, whatever pattern you're using. I have seen some really pretty ones lately. There's floral designs and wood grain designs and all kinds of stuff going on. But the original videos that I saw from Christie's Custom Tumblers and from Linley Grove, they use the alligator skin. And because I have this gorgeous chrome chameleon, which goes green to gold, from Kiss My Art by Anna, I decided that I was going to do a crocodile as well, or an alligator if you're not from Australia, and do it that way as well. But once that's all on, make sure you use your elastic bands or your scrunchies or something just to keep it in place, because we want to keep that pressure consistent as the epoxy cures. So I'm going to let this spin now until it's ready to peel off tomorrow, and then we will be able to do the next step. Alrighty, so we are at the point now where I can touch the bottom and it's not tacky anymore. So it's time for the reveal. I'm going to take all of my scrunchies off. Put them to the side. And now, this is the bit that I always hold my breath for, because it's like, has it worked or has it not worked? Are you ready? Oh. Yay! We got a couple of spots where it didn't quite take, but look at that. I can't get my noodle out. My noodle is stuck. That's alright, I'll just hold it like this. There we go, ta-da! Okay, so the next step for this cup, a bit of a bump there, but that's okay. Right, as you can see, the pattern that we wanted, we got. Okay, so we've got the indents and all of the raised bits, but as you can see, especially the bits that were like all these white or opaque bits, they're the bits that were actually against the silicone mold the most. We also have some spots where it didn't quite take, but overall I'm really happy with that. But because of the way that it looks and how the bits against the silicone mat go a little bit opaque, the next step for this will be to spray paint it again with black so that it's all the same color, which it is now. Okay, sorry, my camera stopped. Okay, so the next steps for this will be to spray paint it black. Once it's spray painted black, I am going to spray it with a repositionable spray adhesive. So it's like tack it, but in a aerosol can, to make it nice and sticky. And then once I've done that, I will be back so that we can put the mica powders on. Alrighty, so here it is. It's been spray painted, and if you can see the white bits on it, I have also put the spray adhesive on. The color shifting chameleon I'm using is this apple green to gold shift, and without trying to make too much of a mess, I'm just using a blush brush. And that will go straight onto there like that. Sorry about the background noise, guys. My kids are home today and they are not cooperating. Isn't that pretty? Right, so now you can start to see the texture of the alligator, the crocodile skin, coming up a little bit more. Oh, my pole's all sticky. Now, if you were, I use a matte black spray paint. If you were going to use a gloss, I find that gloss doesn't dry as quick as matte spray paints. So you could definitely spray paint, excuse me, spray paint over your design, and while it was still wet, do exactly the same thing. But yeah, as I mentioned, I use a mat, and it starts drying within a couple of minutes. Because I'm filming, I mean, if I wasn't filming, I could probably do it in a way where I could spray and then apply this straight onto the wet spray paint. But because I'm filming this for you lovely people, I wanted to give myself a little bit of time. So I am using a spray adhesive. The one that I use, it's that's not repositionable because I don't need it to be, is just the Studymate one from Officeworks. So I will leave a link for that in the description as well. But that is now our crocodile skin. Oh, look, we've got little flurries. Can you see them? They're all floating around. But that is our crocodile skin or cake skin method. So now this baby is ready for epoxy. And here she is, ready for her first coat. Now, I'm not going to bother doing any more coats after this one for this tutorial, so I'm just going to mention quickly, once you put your first coat on, if you still have some lumps and bumps and whatever else, give it a really good sanding, give it a really good wash, and then do another coat on top of that. The only one that I've made before this, it did need 2 coats. I needed to sand it right back. And then do it again. Please bear in mind that when you sand epoxy, yes, it's going to get scratched and opaque and everything. Once you give it a really good wash, once you come back and put the next level of epoxy on, it's going to go crystal clear again. So please don't panic if you've never sanded back an epoxy cut before. It does go back once you put the next coat on. So I have mixed up 30 mils of Diamond Cote. It is a 20-ounce skinny. I usually do 20 mils for a 20-ounce skinny, but because of the texture, I thought doing the extra 10 mils will get me a really nice first coat, and then I can sand back whatever I need to sand back and do the final coat from there. Once I get all of my resin on, and you can see the spots as it comes around where the pattern didn't really take. I'm not overly worried. I think it adds to the charm of it. But that was just me not making sure, oops, please come back, not making sure that the mat was pressed down in all spots before I put the elastic bands on. So if you do want a uniform pattern all the way around, make sure you really work your mat into the epoxy before you go and put your elastic bands on to let it cure. And I'm using a different arm today, so hopefully it won't come out of this end bit down here like it was doing in the first part of our video. Don't forget the bottom. The bottom obviously doesn't have any pattern on it. And now I'm just going to go through and make sure that the resin is covering all of the little edges, the dips. Right, making sure that I get a really good even coverage through the whole pattern. And then we still have a little bit left that I'll add to it just to thicken up. But there are a few spots. There's one big lump here as it comes around. There's another spiky bit here as it comes around. Just be really careful that it's not going to rip your gloves or hurt your fingers. There we go. Isn't that pretty? I like it. Now I don't, wrong way. I don't think I mentioned in the first part, but if I did, then I'm just repeating myself. But it doesn't have to be a crocodile skin. Any silicone cake mat will work. That's a patterned, like a seamless patterned cake mat. I just wanted to do the crocodile skin because that's what I'd seen in other tutorials, and I thought that it looked really funky. Here's the bit that I was telling you about that didn't quite take, but I don't mind it. I think it, like I said, I think it adds to the charm of handmade anyway. But I've seen wood grain patterns, I've seen floral patterns, I've seen swirly patterns, right? It's all up to what you want it to look like. But they are called silicone cake mats or silicone cake skins. So if you are looking to purchase them, they're not overly cheap. The mat that I got, I will leave the link down in the description. I actually got it from a cake decorating place, and it cost me about $30, right? So yes, it is quite a expensive, we'll say expensive, piece of equipment, but if I sell this cup, then I've pretty much made my money back on that one mat from my first cup. So that's how I was thinking of it as well. So please don't gawk at the price. Cake mats aren't cheap, especially if you want to buy them inside Australia instead of shopping on like AliExpress or something like that. But I think the results are well worth it, don't you? And this goes, if you can see, if I can get out of the way enough, it goes from like a goldy apple green to a proper gold. So this one's only got a subtle shift in it. But this was this was what I wanted to use for my crocodile skin. There we go. So that will continue to spin now and level out. I'm going to move it onto my turning table behind me because, as you can see, this turner is getting old and a little bit jumpy. So I only use this turner for demonstrations or for working on when I'm at my desk, and then everything goes on the turning tables behind me. This is going to spin for, I'll leave it until tomorrow because it's winter at the moment, so I leave it a good 24 hours before I even bother with anything at the moment. Give it a good sand, give it a wash, and give it another coat, and then from there I will start thinking about what vinyl I'm going to put on it. But make sure, hang on, we're travelling a little bit, aren't we? We'll come back this way. Just make sure you give it a good sand and a good wash between coats. You may need 3 coats. If you have really big spikes coming out from where the epoxy set on the mat, you may need more than 2 coats. But I'm thinking this one will only need 2. So that is my way of doing the cake skin tumblers. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've not yet seen anybody else down in Australia do these yet, so I hope this is something new for you to see. Thank you very much for joining me, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye!